Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got another in my interviews of executives of junior mining companies to talk about their projects. And in the case of Goliath Resources, they've got a heck of a program or discovery in the making. And I wanted to get the guys on to talk about that. Thank you very much for joining me today, gentlemen.
Thank you for
Thanks,
having us.
Allan. Thanks for having us.
So what recently got my attention was I was listening to the Crescat presentation they do every week, and Quentin Henney was showing sort of the model of what you've already drilled into, and the sheeted zones got me really excited. And then when you show the structural story that is associated with those sheets, it added to my enthusiasm, which is why I reached out to you guys to do an interview.
That's great. Yeah, I know we're all super excited throughout the entire organization. We can't wait to get back this year to further advance the asset and increase the confidence level, I guess, on the drill bit, which obviously is the key thing here.
And in our sorry?
Yeah, I mean, currently right now, we've got proven out an area of 5.2 square kilometers of mineralization, of which, the main focus is the Sherbet zone, which is the main horizon, which is like over an area of 1.6 square kilometers, which is now averaging about 6.88 meters, grading just about 6.31 grams per ton gold equivalent. And just the makeup of that is just about 4.5 grams per ton gold and 111 grams per ton silver, a little bit of copper, a little bit of lead, a little bit of zinc. So very robust system, excellent continuity, very predictable. And like when we're drilling this, when we modeled it, or when Russ and Lele modeled this thing, like we're like, plus or minus 10 meters of hitting it. So obviously the benefit we can see the Sherbet zone at surface on strike for a kilometer up the south slope of the mountain, peaking, and then going down the north slope for another 1.1 kilometer, pinching and swelling in the Hazelton sedimentary rocks. And then within that, we've got the high-grade shear zone of galena, sphalerite, pyrrhotite, pyrite in some instances.
The headline of your news release on January the 9th was Goliath intersects 13.53 grams per ton gold equivalent over 11 meters within the Sherbet. I thought that was pretty good results, and the market sold off, and I think that's created a nice opportunity for me to start banging the drum to my audience.
Yeah, no, definitely. We had a high of 52-week high of $1.74. 52-week low is about 70, I think about 71, 74 cents here. So we're kind of around those areas, but I think typical kind of mining stories, sell on news, buy on mystery, sell on history, right? But that headline is pretty decent. And just one thing to point out is, out of the 56 drill holes within the Sherbet main horizon, 20% of those holes were like greater than 76 gram meter holes, and then over 10% actually were greater than 138 gram meter holes and up to 273 gram meter holes, which is pretty amazing. So, one of the things that we did coming out of the season this year, discover that, as we thought we're drilling off to the southwest there, we thought maybe we were getting closer to the source or one of the sources of the system. But clearly coming out of the season, we've now recognized this northeast fault that the guys can go into, Russ and Lele, that it is maybe the primary source. And as an example, here's a channel cut. I don't know if we can see that.
This is like go closer. Sulfide. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, how's that?
Well, that's this something that I wanted to ask you about because, wow.
Yeah, so that's basically
solid sulfides.
Yeah, 30-ounce gold, 97-ounce silver. And this was actually found just below the South Cliff step-out zone. So a lot of the drilling which is very close to that northeast trending fault. So that's going to be kind of our main focus in 2023. is to really zone in on that really high grade zonation that we're seeing from drilling to date, and certainly to intercept some of these, plus 100 gram meter holes are all kind of off to that, off to the east there. And then obviously we have on the other side of the Northeast Fault, we're getting mineralization where we think it's an extension of the Sherbet zone, which we did have visible gold in from pad A. And we actually got mineralization from the actual fault itself. So we'll be testing that fault substantially in 2023.
I noticed
can let the guys.
I noticed the base metals in there as well, the sniffs of copper and zinc, I think, and lead. You showed a nice picture of sulfides. Is there a possibility that this is part of a VMS system, or what's your theory so far?
Russ, do you want to take that?
It's certainly a possibility. It's not the main hypothesis I'm following. That said, just off to the west of the Sherbet property is Aniox, and Aniox was a big copper deposit. I believe it was a VMS target there, and they were producing. So it's definitely possible, like the terrain, the area, the geology that we see could potentially be a VMS deposit. What we are looking at, based on some early petrographic work that we did, that we're kind of still working on, it seems that the fluids that bring in the mineralization come from relatively deep down, or like several kilometers, up to 5 kilometers under the paleo surface. So we are looking at something is more related to kind of like an intrusion or something like that. It could be some kind of porphyry, possibly, that brings up fluids to the shear zone with the base metals and the precious metals.
Because you're certainly seeing some massive sulfides there with mineralization of
Oh yeah, definitely. Like as you mentioned, we have there's quite a bit of galena. You can see that in whenever you get into the high grade core of the Sherbet zone, it's semi-massive to massive galena sitting in this quartz breccia. There's quite a bit of sphalerite in most samples, most areas as well, and as well as pyrrhotite pyrite. Copper, we do see chalcopyrite. It's not as prominent as the sphalerite and galena, though.
But that could be zonation inside of a system, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah. And like we do have some academics, some guys from universities doing a PhD, and he's a master. Sorry, he's working on this stuff, trying to see what the distribution of these metals is, and how these fluids and these metals came into the Sherbet at surface, basically. Like, where are they coming from? What drives those fluids, and all these kind of things.
In the pre-interview we were doing, Russell brought up some maps, and I think that it would be nice to get those up there, because it really shows and people can quickly understand that this is a big and powerful mineralizing event system.
Yeah, I can bring up that the model that I had there again.
And what stood out to me from the conversation that I was listening to Quentin Henney show the maps, and the sheets of mineralization are exciting. And then the structural story is also exciting. So what you're sharing now will help explain that better than I can, Russell.
For sure. So right now we're just looking at the model for the Sherbet Ridge itself. And this white line or yellow line right here indicates the actual outcropping we have of the Sherbet zone. So this is where we are finding our mineralization, the gold and silver mineralization associated with those base metals that we were just talking about. So it makes it really easy to put your finger on this and follow this up the south slope for about 1 kilometer, as Roger was saying. And then it goes down the north slope, which is quite steep. But it's, once you get your eye into it, you can just follow this right down. It does pinch and swell as it moves through some of these folded Hazeltine units, and then it dies down below the glacier right here. So this outcropping is what we used for our initial model. So if you look at
well, and that kind of gives you a cross section, a slice that can help you with your targeting.
Oh, for sure. And it also just shows the continuity of this system running right through, because we can see it cut right through the mountain, which is very handy for the targeting we needed for drilling. So using this plane, using these outcrops, we were able to generate a plane which for the 2021 drilling, which focused a lot on this eastern side. We were hitting this within meters to up maybe 10 meters off for the planning, which was which made drilling quite exciting, because it was quite predictable, and it showed that continuity. So let me just bring up.
Well, before you do, you can,
sure,
with your cursor, you can draw some of those key structures. I see one right beside that, and a couple more. I'm not sure what direction. To the left side of the screen, I see two big ones.
yes.
And to the right, I see one really big one.
Yes. So let me just bring this into plan view here. So the main other structures that we have on the area, other than, of course, the outcropping of the Sherbet zone, is we have these more north-south running structures. So this one right here that I'm outlining is the Real Deal structure. And then we have the Clown 9 structure. So these are quite vertical structures that seem to be pre-mineralization based on the fact that some of this mineralization cuts through, and also with the relative timing of the diking that we have cutting through these that are associated with this intrusion that's to the far west. We also have this northeast steep steeply dipping structure, which is also becoming quite important to the new story that we're finding as drilling and more work on this mountain goes forward.
And it also stands out to me that they all seem to be coming together as you go further down the mountain.
Yes, there's definitely an area where a lot of structures are meeting, and part of the 2023 drilling that we're going to be moving forward with will be to really target in here and figure out what's happening as they're meeting, because that's, you know, when these mineral systems, that's a place where you might have quite a lot of surprises popping in.
So for our non-geo audience out there, you know, these are cracks in the earth that allow those fluids to make their way up with the metals bearing fluids. And these cracks, when they come together, can often be a very good rock preparation zone for those fluids to make their way up and pool up.
For sure. So let me just turn the topography down a little bit, just to transparent.
Okay.
And this will then pop up those structures, so you can see the vertical running Real Deal structure, as well as the Cloud 9, and then also this northeast structure.
And in the maybe you can turn on the mineralized zones there, and there's a couple of okay, all right, there you go.
Yeah, so this one that I popped on right now is the Sherbet zone. So this is the one that is associated, highly associated with the sulfide minerals that we were discussing. So the lead, zinc, copper minerals. And this is basically what the original model we had going forward into the 2021 drilling. And most of these holes up here on the eastern end, these are most of the 2021 drilling holes that we had, plus the number of channel cuts. So this was those holes really helped solidify this initial part of the model. But one thing we noticed within the 2021 drilling is that there were a number of horizons that we had above and below. And that started to really accentuate itself more with the 2022 drilling, where as we drilled more to the west, we were having a lot more zones above and below. Some of these zones are associated with sulfide minerals, but some are just more quartz veins that have gold and silver in them, and not as much sulfides. So that allowed us to then start generating a number of other stacked layers that are popping up. And so we're getting more of a sheeted look to this mineral zone as we move to the west. One thing that also really popped up is, again, when we bring over to this northeast structure, this other sheet popped up, which has a lot of similarities to what we see within the main Sherbet zone, meaning it has those sulfide minerals association. So lots of galena, sphalerite, chalcopyrite, pyrrhotite. And the grades within that we were getting within this zone are very similar to what we were having in the main zone. But and also very high grade. So we a couple of these intercepts through this sheet here actually showed visible gold, as well as a number of holes over this way. One of them showed visible gold, and the grades are quite higher here. We also
the evidence of a powerful mineralizing system just keeps growing as you do more work. You've got a significant zone of mineralization on one side of the fault, on the other side as well. And another thing that has just now popped out as you brought those up in sequence is that it looks like they could all be connected, but they're still wide open as you follow it to depth.
Yes. And so one thing to, as you noted before, we're kind of getting this confluence of or this connection of multiple structures coming together as we move more to the west. And so this will be a big focus for the 2023 drilling, is to start drilling in this area where we have open ground here, so we can actually test what's happening. Because from the 2022 drilling, we had intercept run through this northeast fault, and the grades from that were quite substantial. And again, we're having high grades on both sides. And so this northeast structure is becoming a lot more important than originally thought. And it might be leading us towards more of what's feeding this whole system altogether.
Wow, so that's very exciting. Wow.
Yeah, so we'll be doing a lot of drilling down to the west of the structure, as well as on to the east, to help define this a lot more for us.
So, of the have you reported all of your drill holes for this year yet, or you still have more coming?
At this point, everything that we have drilled has been reported.
Okay, so you've then put that into your model here.
Yes, so everything that you're seeing here are all the drill holes for the Sherbet zone. We had some drillings off to the south east, as well as some drilling we did to the north. So these areas were all outside of the main Sherbet area. Very interesting mineralization was popping out on these ones, but for the focus of the Sherbet zone itself, the drilling is all kind of contained within these volumes right here, as well as off to the east here on just the east side of the northeast fault.
So 2023, you'll start to vector in around the where all those structures come together, and
yes,
and then keep following it.
Yep. So a lot along the east fault here, northeast fault. And then also there'll be a number of drill holes that will be running along where we're having a more higher grades near the cliff zone. And then also drilling between the real deal structures and Cloud 9 structure to help define these a lot more. We only have a couple pierce points running through these structures, each one, of course, being mineralized. And we have mineralization outcropping on surface for both of these. So that's something that we need to pinpoint a bit better. So the drilling that we have planned up to 20,000 meters total for the whole area will help with that.
And are you seeing in the distribution of the gold, are you seeing as you step away from the fault that is there any kind of zonation there that gives you some information?
Yeah, as we move more to more to the west and away from these structures, we're seeing more gold, or we're seeing more silver popping up as we move away. So there's a lot higher silver as we move up in the system compared to more gold rich when we're getting down in this area over here. So that's also helping us with targeting where the potential feeder to this whole thing is.
When you're talking about that zonation, I live in Zacatecas, and I'm not very far from the San Nicolas mine that Teck and Agnico Eagle are going to develop for 2025 production. And same, it's got that kind of zonation. As you high in the VMS system, you get your silver and zinc, and as you go lower, you get into copper and gold. And I don't know, more things are starting to sound like that quacking duck might be VMS related.
I mean, there's a lot of evidence that this is intrusion driven in ways. I mean, if you look at the rock packages in the area, these are all from rocks that came from more volcanic islands or back arc basin type of ordeals, and then through all the number of geological events that have piled these rocks together and deformed them. Some of the drivers for the fluids, some of the evidence that we have for what's driving these fluids and the source of these fluids, they are definitely deeper down. So
I see a big smile on Manuel's face there. What do we got you thinking, Manuel?
No, I'm not going to exclude it right off the bat, but I'm kind of laughing because Russ is trying to be nice and give you evidence that we don't think it's a VMS.
Okay. Okay.
So,
but I mean, how do you explain the zonation of the precious metals and the existence of base metals as well?
I mean, you do see these patterns in, especially if you think of this system as these fluids or these base metals and precious metal being remobilized. So they could come from some source reservoir that is somewhere at depth, and then they get redistributed. So you get this zonation with the gold closer to the origin and the silver, lead, silver, zinc kind of further up the system. So that wouldn't be that crazy to think of. That said, I mean, if it actually is a remobilized system, could it be that a VMS was there, it got kind of pushed down during the subduction or something, and then it reaches depth of 4 or 5 kilometers, and then these fluids bring the material back up? I don't know. Could be.
Well, what we do know is you've got some pretty nice looking zones there that are stacked, and they're definitely associated with the structural story as well.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Roger, I got you. I see you're on mute there.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the share structure. You guys have 78 million shares.
It's over 78 million shares issued outstanding.
You've got a big shareholder in Crescat. They own a little.
Crescat is they're tapped out. They're like 19.99%. So and they can't buy any more stock, unfortunately. I'm sure if they could, they would. Coming out of this season, and then we've got Eric Sprott, who's just around 9% now, partially diluted basis. Management team around 10% of the company.
And then you have some other funds that own positions as well.
Yeah, anywhere between sort of 3 to, let's say, up to 8% of the company. From a trading perspective, we've traded just over 52 million shares in the last 52 weeks. So if you look what's outstanding, and if you do the calcs on the percentages owned by the long-term money folks that are in it, I think there's a lot of traders in there, and we've turned the float over. I guess the free float that's not long-term, probably like 3-4 times. So very liquid company, I think people see that and are attracted to it. You know, the guys that are trading for pennies or whatever, and you know, there's good volume. But you know, we had a high of $1.74 and a low of 71 cents. So for
You're not
74, I
much
think
above the low right now.
we're exactly, and we've actually advanced this thing. You know, we've increased the confidence level substantially from 2021, and we've got all these other zones, and we're now we have I think a better idea as to where all this high grade
Well,
is
and
coming from.
that's what leads me to present you guys as something that I think is a very deep valuation play, because certainly looks like you've got something that could run in the millions of ounces of gold there, yet you have a very modest valuation and predictability to your mineralization and wide open. It's quite a compelling story.
Yeah, it is super compelling for sure. And I keep on saying this. I think people maybe cannot grasp the fact that we've only drilled just over 30,000 meters, and we've outlined this. Like I say, we've discovered a monster here, 1.6 square kilometers, almost it's over 6.8 meters, almost 7 meters wide at 6.31 grams gold equivalent. Just for information on the density, it's a SG of 2.903. So clearly there's quite a bit of tonnage there. And if everything holds together based on those numbers, people can do their own calculations on the back of an envelope to see, why people are saying what they're saying out there. Certainly Quentin's been quite vocal about it. In our pre-interview discussion, I think you came up with your own number, what you think might be there. And then there's another chap, smart guy, geologist, runs his own money. I think his name escapes me, but he's got a pretty interesting number as well. And so why is the stock here? I think we had one big seller on the last piece of news, and people are kind of scratching their heads, going, "Well, it's not bad. Like, what's wrong? What am I missing here?" Right?
That's why I reached out to you guys.
Yeah. So I mean,
especially when you look at the model of your mineralization and the structural story, I mean, it's starting to look like something that could be over 2 million ounces of gold to me.
Right. Well,
and so I was quite surprised to see it trading near its 52-week low after those results.
So are we. So I don't know. I mean,
that's the market.
What it is, it's the market. And, I don't think a lot of money has come back into the juniors. I think we're almost there. I see big money going into the seniors. And as we all know, it starts with the seniors, and then, everything kind of trickles down eventually. So, we're here at the AME Roundup for next week in Vancouver, and Russ will be here, and Lele will be here. So this is all like a lot of smart people, a lot of technical people, geologists primarily, and we'll be able to tell the story and
to an audience of people that want to hear the story. And are you guys going to go to PDAC?
Actually, in fact, we've been invited by PDAC to be representing our core in the core shack. So that's quite an honor as well. So it's very unique. It's very limited and very selective in nature. So
it's been a few years since I've been to PDAC, but I'm thinking of making the trip and bringing my camera with me, and maybe we'll do an interview from the floor or from the core shack.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Yeah, Russ will be there. Layla will be there. I'll be around as well. So, but definitely that'd be a good sort of a follow-up, I guess.
And what's the cash position like, Roger?
Well, our September balance sheet, we've got about 5 million net showing on that balance sheet at that time.
Okay. And what kind of plan are you I guess it's kind of early to start talking about your plan for drilling, how much you'll do and that sort of stuff?
No, we've already started planning. We started planning actually last year because like the terrain is not flat. So you can't drill on every inch of the mountain. So you have to be extremely selective as to where can you actually build a pad safely, as well, making sure you've got water as well. So those are already picked out, and depending on success, and we can bob and weave during the season as well. So if we're getting some really good results, we can always add some holes or add potentially another pad or go back to one of our previous pads and or locations and drill some holes from that location. But right now we're going to focus on that high grade part of the system. I showed you that this South Cliff zone with this 30-ounce piece of gold and 97-ounce silver.
Massive sulfides.
Oh yeah, no, this thing is it's crazy. I think I already showed it. So
yeah, there it is.
Crazy.
That's why your density is 2.9.
Yeah, exactly. So
there you go.
I think you can see it there a little better. But
gotta stop showing me that stuff, or I'm going to keep talking about some of the rock that I've seen in VMS systems from places like Neves Corvo in Portugal and Spain area.
Yeah,
we used to have. I worked for a big geological consulting firm, and we used to have got a sample from one of the big mines in that Iberian pyrite belt. It looked just like that. It was really heavy, and we had it on our lunch table and kind of a motivator for all of us.
Yeah, no, it's certainly motivating everyone on the team for sure. So
yeah,
okay. We're very blessed, and I mean, it doesn't happen normally. You go drill something, you don't hit anything on a vein system, and so far we've hit 97% of our holes within that 1.6 square kilometer area. So guess what, folks? Oh, and we haven't talked about metallurgy, getting exceptional metallurgical results with a 98.2% recovery, 38.1%.
And that's initial metallurgy. That's not even, you haven't even gone in there and tried to maximize it.
Correct. That was off 2021 holes. And with that, just over 38% was free gold from gravity. And this is actually at a 150 micron. So not a lot of energy to crush that material. And we're doing some follow-up with PNC with the 2022 material as well to see if we can increase I guess the throughput or the recovery rates and the pull as well. And then I guess another thing we should mention before we go is infrastructure. We got the town of Kitzel that holds up to 300 people. Guess what? You don't have to build a camp. I think last year we peaked out, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I think around 60 with the helicopters. We had like 5 rigs, 2 or 3 helicopters and pilots and engineers and so on and so forth. And then we've got tidewater access to take us down to Prince Rupert, which is 190 clicks away, which takes you to Deepwater Port, and then you've got rail that can take it right across Canada. So, if and when this does become a mine someday, everything's in place. CapEx is going to be super low, based on all these attributes. Power is just 25 clicks off to the east. You can drive to Kitzel from Terrace in 3.5 hours on highway and paved gravel road. So, we're continuing to tick the boxes. And this is something that I think the senior miners, or actually all miners, are looking for, is that, low CapEx, no cyanide required to recover the gold underground,
low cost extraction,
low cost, exactly. So
make some money on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, we're planning for success. So we're ticking all the boxes. So
So one thing that really stood out to me when Russell was talking and showing those maps is that, you guys it looks like you've got excellent predictability. So when you have that predictability, you can get in there and get a lot of work done without having to use a ton of money.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct for sure.
Good.
Yeah. And then I guess we should just sort of touch on the, like I said, or we mentioned it does remain open. We do have a new discovery to the north, about 4 kilometers of the Sherbet zone, which we believe is part of the same system, which basically the only difference is it's dipping at 80 to 90. Same type of textures, same type of grades, which will be drilled this year as well. So we could have another
emerging
type
discovery.
Yeah. So lots of blue sky, and we've staked. Like right now, I think we have now up to 56 kilometers of the red line, which is, as you know, an important contact point between the Stahana and Hazelton volcanics, where majority of the deposits and mines in the triangle have been found on either side, 2 clicks, and basically we're right along track on trend of this thing. So
how have your efforts been with working with the local Indigenous community? That's always a topic for me because my father was Cree. How's things going on that front?
Yeah, we engaged with them, I guess, Lele, like 4 years ago, and they were. I think they just the net was come back when you've got something, but they're aware of what we're doing. But the Tahltan and Nisga'a in the area, I mean, those are the First Nation groups you want to be dealing with. They're making lots of money, and that's all pro business for them. So we're in the perfect jurisdiction for that. And
perfect.
Yeah.
Are you using any of them as contractors?
Yeah, we had I think we had 2 firms. One we plowed the roads with early on, and the pad building.
Well, I've always found, and I've gone into a couple areas where I had to do permitting for drilling in challenging areas with opposition, and I took on a pretty important pillars. I think if you show respect, you consult, and you include, that those are the recipes for success with partnering up with First Nations and getting their support.
Definitely. Yeah, and even just getting drill permits, and we did some amendments. So obviously we have consultation with them as well, and they're happy with what's going on and having no issues whatsoever in this part of the world. And again, they're all pro mining, pro business. So we have the perfect scenario here.
Yeah, sounds like you got all the boxes checked off nicely, Roger, and your team.
Yeah, well, without the team, we wouldn't be here. So I'm just lucky to be along for the ride.
Yeah, you let them do their work.
You bet.
And make you look smart.
Exactly.
And by extension, me too, for covering you guys.
Yeah, get in early, right? Ahead of the curve.
Exactly. I'm going to close it off. Thank you guys very much. This has been a very informative presentation that really further gets me excited about the investment opportunity that Goliath has for investors in exploration stories.
Thanks, Allan. Thanks for having us, and I look forward to that follow-up. And if anyone is interested, come down to the AME Roundup. We're at booth 1504, and then VRIC on the Monday, booth 504. So
go look at that core, folks. It's some nice looking stuff.
Yeah, I might have to melt the sucker down and maybe. No, it's too pretty. It's too pretty.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, I'll just wrap it up and we can have a chat at the other end.
All right.
Sounds good.
So there you go, folks. I'm always trying to find companies that I think are deep value plays that, they're not getting the valuation that they should. I think that this is a multi-million ounce target. Evidence that that's the case is you look at the models that are of these sheeted zones, and in relation to the structural story. So you've got the plumbing system and you've got the mineralization, and they're still early in learning about it, but they've got excellent predictability because of what they've already found and the structural story. So I think the company is very undervalued. And I think that you want to do your homework on the company. I hope that this is a good launching point for that homework. You can also hear Quentin Henney talk about the company on his Crescat presentations they do every week. The company's periodically on there. Go to their website and check out their news releases and their corporate presentation. As always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. And I always stress, do your homework. You want to understand the companies that you're investing in, logically why you're investing in them, and have a reasonable time frame for success. And I think if you do that, you'll find Goliath is not only checking off all the boxes in the process to find a mine, but it also has all those key characteristics for a successful investment. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.